Hey, this is Mike along the river again, and a lot of my friends ask me about home defense pistols and what's the different kind they should buy and what are the pros and cons. And I was going to give a little talk about pistols today. I'm going to start over here with this. This is actually a 22, and it has the same action as a lot of basically the cowboy pistols. Basically, if you want to clear a chamber, you have to use this ramrod to push out the old casing. So the pros and cons of this, these were solid pistols. You can knock somebody in the head with them. They're very solid pistols. It's very slow to load and unload these. So basically this uses 22s, but I'd have to slide one in at a time. So I would do this 6 times, and once I was ready, I would close the gate, pull the hammer all the way back, and fire it. Now the old cowboy type pistols were single action. And what single action means is the only thing the trigger does is drop the hammer. A double action pistol will, when you pull the trigger, the hammer will come back and then eventually come back down and fire the round. So with a single action, you have to pull the hammer back yourself and then fire. All these guns are unloaded, by the way. So the old cowboy style pistols, in order to load them, this is what's called a loading gate. You'd have to go to what's called half cock, and that allows you to spin your cylinder to load and unload. So each one, if you were unloading, you'd have to push out each of the casings one at a time. So that's how that works. This is, once again, it's still a 22, and 22s, they use the smallest bullets out here. They're relatively small. This will hold 10 rounds, and this is similar to the 357 of like a Dirty Harry movie. And what the advantages of this are, the cylinder comes out to the side, and you can load all your rounds, typically 6. This one, since it's a 22, it's smaller, has 10. And you can close it up, and it's a double action pistol, which means as you pull the trigger, the hammer comes back and then releases, back and then releases. And right now this is called dry firing, not really good for a gun. And you can also use this as a single action, pull the hammer back yourself. When you do that, the trigger is much lighter to push. You see that the trigger is already back. So it's just a very light trigger pull to get that to fire. This is a Beretta 22, and once again, it's loaded, it's unloaded, but it's just like the Berettas the military has purchased. And actually, it's a really good training pistol because the 22 rounds are much cheaper than 9mm or other rounds. This has a suppressor on it. Some people call it a can. So this has a suppressor on it. And a lot of times when you fire these pistol with a suppressor on it, you can use what's called subsonic ammunition. So unlike the regular 22s, these are a little heavier, they go a little slower, so they don't break the sound barrier where you don't get the snap. So the can silences it from the gun, and the subsonic ammunition keeps it quiet without breaking the sound barrier. This is kind of a neat pistol. It's a newer pistol. It has what's called a red dot on it, and the red dot makes it a little faster to aim your pistol, in my opinion. Typically, you have two posts in the back and a post in the front, and you have to line these posts up. With the red dot is you just find the red dot, put the red dot on what you want to fire at, and pull the trigger back, and the bullet will basically go where the red dot is without having to worry about your elevation and stuff. These bullets are kind of neat. You can see them in here. They go faster because they look like miniature rifle rounds. Let me pull one out. So this is what they look like. And because of their casing, they go faster downrange. Now the civilian version of this does not go fast enough to penetrate a vest, but the military version of this round can go they do make them fast enough, and the purpose of it was to penetrate a bulletproof vest. They go very high velocity, and but one of the advantages of this is a Palmetto State Armory 5.7, and it holds 23 rounds in a magazine, so you have a lot of shots. And from a lot of the ballistics I've seen, this round, because of the higher velocity, can do a similar type of damage to what you're shooting as a 9mm. We'll get to the 9mm next. So there is an advantage, and these have very little kickback, so it's much easier to reacquire your target because it has less kickback, and because it does have the red dot, you can stay on target much faster and do a lot of damage with a lot of quick shots. This pistol is a very prolific pistol. This is a Glock 19. So basically it will carry 15 rounds in the magazine and one in the chamber, so it can carry 16 shots altogether. You can buy extended magazines for this. This one holds 31, and you could use this in here. This is another Palmetto State Armory. It's called a Dagger, but it's basically a knockoff of one of the earlier Glocks. And the advantage of the Glock is it's a very dependable gun. It's one of the reasons there's so many of them out there. This one has a red dot, and it has a light on the front. And that's what this front rail is. It allows you to attach different things, a light or a laser or some other kind of attachment. One of the things in this Glock 17, this Glock 19, and this magazine, I have two different types of bullets. These are called hollow points, and these are regular full metal jacketed bullets. The difference in these two bullets is the hollow points are a little more expensive, but when they hit something, they expand out and kind of mushroom, making a bigger hole. Because it makes a bigger hole, it does a little more damage. So those are the difference in the bullets. So besides which pistol you want to decide on, you have to decide on what kind of ammunition to use. If you want to stop somebody from coming at you, you can think of shooting into one of the waveless mattresses from years ago, and the more fluid, the faster you can get the fluid out of that mattress, the faster somebody's going to stop coming at you. So that's the idea of the hollow point bullets. This is a Taurus G2C, and this is basically a compact version of these other 9mm. So if you want to carry a gun, it's easier to carry a gun concealed if it's smaller. And so this has a 3-inch barrel, and it's easier. Once again, I have the hollow points in this one because if someone is accosting me, if I, God forbid, ever have to use a firearm, I want them to stop the threat as quickly as possible. Next we go to the .40 caliber. This is another Glock. This is the Glock 22. And this is a lot of police carry this. So the .40 caliber, there's a kind of a long story behind the .40 caliber, how that was developed. Originally, the .40 caliber, this is the same diameter as a 10mm. It's a little bit shorter. And the 10mm fires a lot like a .357. There's a lot of snap to it. And because of that snap, it's harder to get back on target. The bullet has a very high velocity. So the FBI were kind of outgunned in certain circumstances, so they wanted to go to a more powerful bullet. Initially, they went to the 10mm, and they didn't. It wasn't very successful for them. Some of the people can't handle the kick, so they went basically with a watered-down 10mm, which is the .40 Smith & Wesson, the .40 caliber, and It has a higher velocity than, say, the 45, which I have over here, and a little less stopping power. But here's the 45 and here's the 40 caliber. This is a hollow point, so obviously this will make a bigger hole, but with the hollow point this will make a similar type hole. The advantages of the smaller bullet is you can do a double stack with them and versus a single stack. So let me explain the double stack versus the single stack while we're here. This is a single stack where you can see the bullets are straight on top of one another in the magazine. Because of that, you're limited by how many rounds or bullets you can put in here. When you double stack, they go in and they kind of, instead of going straight on top of one another, they go in and they offset coming down so you can fit more of them in there. So these magazines are similar in size. The bullets, the 45s, are a little bit wider, but this is an 8-round magazine, and well, this is a double stack, so this will carry 14 to 15 rounds typically. Now, California has some weird rules where you can't have magazines more than that can hold more than 10 rounds, and I think this is one of those weird magazines. But for instance, this 9mm Glock is double stack and it carries 15. My another Glock I have, it's a Glock 17. It carries 17 in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. When you hear 1 in the chamber, what that means is there's 1 already chambered in the gun. And so when you close it and you have a full magazine, so if I had 1 in the gun and a full magazine, this holds 23. This gun, in theory, you can carry around 24 rounds with you. Technically, a bullet is just the part that comes out of the gun. That's the end. People call the whole casing and primer as a round. They call it a round. So that's different than 40 caliber. This is a 45. It's a 1911 style pistol, which means it originally was made in 1911. Obviously, there's some updates to this one. It's empty here, so I'll close that. This is also a single action. So let me explain a little bit, since these look different. This is a black plastic gun and this is more of a metal gun. So this is the hammer and this is a striker fired gun. So with hammer fired guns, just like the revolvers are all hammer fired, the hammer comes down, hits a firing pin, hits a primer, primer ignites the gunpowder, and bullet flies out the end. And typically these guns, once they're cocked, they have a fairly light trigger pull. The striker fired guns, like this Palmetto dagger, it has a harder trigger pull, so you don't pull it by accident, and you have to, you hear that click. That's it firing. So we've talked about the different number of styles of guns, the hammer fire, the striker fire, the different types of magazines, the double stack and the single stack. Double stacks, you can put more in there. It also makes the grip a little wider, so if you have smaller hands, a single stack may work better for you. For the ladies out there, they can use maybe a smaller gun. Now, these two guns, this is a 4-inch barrel, this is a 3-inch barrel. The longer the barrel, the higher the velocity of the round is going through the barrel. So if this were 7 inches, when the bullet leaves the muzzle, it's going to go faster because it's had more time to speed up and push out. And typically the smaller the handgun, the more kick. So the heavier gun can handle the bigger rounds better because it's a heavier gun. It won't kick up as much when you fire it. So that's it. The suppressors, you have to get a special license. You have to apply for it and get cleared. You have to pay a $200 tax, and it takes 10 months to a year to get it now. But I hope this answers some questions of the different types of guns. You have your revolvers, you have your semi-automatics, you have your striker fired, you have your hammer fired, and this, you can also have a semi-automatic that's hammer fired. And here you can see the hammer. So there's a lot of different options out there. If you're just going to buy probably just one pistol for all around, I would recommend something that has maybe a 4-inch barrel. So if you can keep that at home, or it's small enough where you can put it in something and halfway conceal it if you want to take it with you in a real sketchy place you're going to. But if you're going to some place where you feel like you need to carry a gun, you probably don't need to go there. So I hope this answered most of your questions, and I enjoy getting out on a nice day like today out by the river, and I hope you can enjoy the rest of your day. And that's the view out here. Have a good one.